Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of Dark Side of the Word, a weekly podcast for all the dark story lovers. I'm Kait, and I'm here with my ambitious co-host CJ.
Hello, everybody. Ooh, ambitious. I like that adjective. That is a good one for me because I am working on so many different projects right now, so I do feel very ambitious.
I know, and even though I refer to a list of adjectives to help me inspire me, because remember, I'm trying a new word to describe CJ every week, so 48 words. But I feel like this word I would have come up on my own because I agree. You are being very ambitious lately.
I'm also tired. You could call me tired, CJ. That would be appropriate as well.
I'm staying positive, okay?
Okay, yeah. Tired's not as morale boosting. So we will go with, hello, everybody. I am ambitious, CJ. It's nice to see you.
Thank you. Let's have a little hi, let's go. Everybody, we're going to talk about writing today.
I feel like my head just exploded. What the fuck was that? That bring it on moment. Oh my God. Okay.
I'm trying so hard to pep my step today.
You're just like Eliza Dushku's character and Bring It On right now. That's just all I'm seeing. Okay.
Listeners, it's fake.
Moving on.
It's fake. For those that listened to our update earlier this month, we finally heard back about my dog's hip. He will not at the moment need surgery, so I kind of just crashed after that. And so now I'm trying to pep it up because we got a podcast to record and we're not gonna,
I'm excited to record the podcast. It always puts me in a good mood. Even if I'm having a weird day or I'm in a bad mood, it always makes me happy because I enjoy talking to you. I enjoy talking for our listeners. And I'm excited to get into today's industry trend topic.
Yes, it is the third Thursday of the month, which means it is our industry topic, just like CJ said. And I don't know if I'm excited for this month's topic or chomping at the bit because I'm going to apologize now if my soapbox ever appears when I'm standing on it because we're going to talk about something that's bothered me for a very long time. And
I'm a little scared.
And I hope that I don't sound like a bitch today. I'm very opinionated on this.
Okay, everybody pull the earphones away from your ears just a little bit, just in case. I will too. We're all in this together for Kait's monologue on this industry topic.
So, since we've had you all on the edge of your seats as to whether or not you should listen, today's topic is going to cover writing classes. Do they help, or are they pigeonholing the entire industry? Should you take one? Do they exist to feed off people's desperation to become traditionally published? And I know that I have finally convinced CJ to throw out Save the Cat. So hopefully,
yes.
If you've heard us rant about that. But I just want to really cover writing classes and the point of them and Are they important? What are they doing? But before Kait starts filling out the soapbox already, CJ...
And continue speaking in third person.
Everyone should be worried when I start speaking in third person.
Are you dissociating?
Before I start ranting, I would love to start with an initial feeling on how CJ feels, for lack of a repetitive word in the same sentence, how CJ feels about writing classes.
Okay. So when I think of writing classes, I feel there are really two categories. There's classes about how to write well, and then there's classes about how to build a story. As you all know, I've taken a couple writing workshops, and I love them, and they really benefited me. And specifically, these classes were about how to write a novel, how to structure it well, how to pace it well, how to build strong, believable characters, how to create stakes, basically how to build a beginning, a middle, and an end to your story. And then there's classes that teach you how to write, how to create beautiful language, how to know when you need to use a different or better verb in a sentence, how to come straight to the point or when you can wax lyrical and poetic, and basically how to employ literary techniques like symbolism, empathetic fallacy, and foreshadowing and assonance. Everything that can make writing really unique and stand out. And I feel like these are two very different kinds of writing classes. I've only had the more literary style, I guess, when I was in high school in my AP and honors classes. I didn't do any creative writing in college or after. And then it wasn't until I took those writing workshops about a year and a half ago for the Hygge book that I did how to write a novel. So overall, it's all been very positive for me. So I like them for me. And I think overall, I would recommend them but I feel like that's not the group feeling in the room. I'm reading the room, and that's not what everybody's feeling here.
So I am happy to hear that you have this take, because it is very different to how I feel. So I feel like this is going to become a great discussion for our listeners to maybe hear pros and cons from both sides, so that they can form their own opinion. For sure. So I'm just putting that out there, because side tangent though, your writing workshop that you've been doing, I would not categorize it in today's discussion as a class, because that to me is a very different beast. Because what that is, I wholly support your workshops, because what you're doing is you're sending chapters to a group to be discussed, and then you end up covering technique while you're there. But it's like a critique group for people that maybe don't have a really close inner circle kind of thing.
Oh, but I didn't mean the one I'm doing now. I meant the ones that I did before, the paid ones with the writer's circle, because that had an instructor.
Yeah, but I would still count that kind of close to the same thing. Because, you have someone with more experience in the group, which you're paying to be able to work on your book. Mm-hmm. So you do cover more technique, but I still wholly support those and don't include these into the discussion of a class where you're specifically going to learn stuff, to learn how to write a book. Because you show up to have your book talked about and to learn how to fix it and to learn technique in that, but you're not going to a class specifically to learn how to write a book. Does that make sense? Where you don't have the manuscript yet?
Not having the manuscript, yes, but I feel like it would be, I felt like I was in a class, like I was getting taught by an instructor who has good experience. I've definitely had bad writing instructors before,
100%.
And she was not at all a bad writing instructor. Yeah. So I do feel it was very educational and not just a peer group at all.
Agree. No, I agree. I just think that is a different kind of beast than what we're going to talk about today. Because that to me is definitely worth the money, and is not the same thing as taking a writing class from scratch to learn how to write a book.
Okay.
You are taking your book and learning how to make it better, and from there learning technique and having someone with experience critiquing your book specifically. You're not going to say learn how to character develop or the 3-act structure, or you're not going specifically to the class to learn something like that, so then you can go write your book. Does that make sense?
So basically you mean save the cat in a class form.
100%.
Okay.
Where you don't have your book yet, but you say, I want to go write a book, so I'm going to go take classes to learn how to write my book before I start.
Gotcha. I'm going to be a writer, and it's going to be easy, and here I go.
But not that you're showing up with a finished manuscript, hoping someone with the experience that you're paying for can review your book, tell you where it's going, where you need to help, and learn technique along the way to assist in creating your book to be a bigger masterpiece than what it is. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yes, now it does.
So now that we're all on the same page, today's topic really came to me after I saw Adrienne Young's announcement for her new writing conservatory. And if people don't know who Adrienne Young is, she's a very prolific one of those has to come out every podcast, prolific writer. I want to say she's been around since, I want to say 2018, 2019. She did her first debut book was Sky in the Deep. It was auctioned. I believe she got a 6-figure, advance for it. Don't quote me. Yeah, it was auctioned.
Back in the day.
Back in the day. So she's written 5 or 6 YA books. So she did Sky in the Deep duology. She did the Fable universe. I'm pretty sure she's written now 2 adult novels. She originally created what is called the Writer's Workshop, which is a 4-week intensive to learn how to to connect to your emotions to write a story. And she also hosts these very immersive writing retreats that are in Scotland. Ooh. Now, I've read Adrienne Young. I've personally met her twice. So as a person, this is nothing to say to her as a person. She's very sweet. Okay. I think that she's meaning well in everything she's doing. I don't think that the monster that has been created is entirely her fault, though I do think that she is taking this possibility and cash grabbing as she can, because she sees that it's a possibility, but instead of realizing what her actions are doing.
Here it comes. The soapbox is getting dragged out of the wings from behind the curtain.
But so I will start with I have 3 different things I want to talk about in writing classes in general to give an idea. I'm going to talk about my background in writing. I also, with my experience in writing classes, I was going to approach MFAs, because I think that's another big conversation of writing classes. Save the Cat and Desperation in general of what the writing industry does. But my experience with what Adrienne Young has done in the industry is she has created she's feeding off the desperation of people who want to get published. And she's creating this following of people who only believe that they will get published if they follow to the T what she's saying. And I've personally...
Is that what she is saying in her like marketing for the program?
I'm trying to remember the exact wording. I wouldn't say that she said that directly, but she has said that it will help.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Which is what you want from a writing class, that it will help.
Yes, but there's a difference between you're learning to write a better story and create your own art versus I'm going to follow everything to the T because that's the only way it's going to get me published, and I'm going to completely lose the art of writing. And that's where my really big point of all this is are we pigeonholing the industry because now we're going to follow whoever says we can get published and completely letting go of what writing means and the art of writing? Because now there's this group of people who think that, oh, unless you take the class, you're never going to get published and you're not good enough. And now we're in her inner circle and look what's come out of it. And it's just, okay. So my background of writing is I first want to say, I think this is funny. Writing is more personal than comedy. Books and writing and art is more personal than comedy, especially after my weekend I spent with friends talking about what we like in books and what we don't. There's such a wide range of what people like and don't like. I think we can all agree to that.
Yeah.
And we got to remember that really when we're writing. Like, you're going to have art that is very relatable to a wider audience, but you're also going to have art that isn't technically bad, but it's just not your cup of tea. Now, don't get me wrong. There are bad books like The House of Last Resort, but, you know...
Okay, or Ninth House or Catherine House. I mean, I don't like the house books, do I?
Ninth House.
Oh, Nothing But Black and Teeth.
Ninth House you just didn't like because it wasn't your taste. You can't attack it technically.
That's true.
You can attack Nothing But Black and Teeth technically. I'll give you that one. So think about the books that have really broken the mold lately. Twilight, Harry Potter.
Harry Potter. I like how you say it with the accent.
Potter, you have to. Fourth Wing. You know, these books broke the mold and kind of launched themselves to success, but I wouldn't entirely say they all fit the mold of the technical writing genre of what you have to do to write a book, right? What this is, what Save the Cat puts down in a book of just like, this is the 3-act structure, this is your mulligan, this is the blah, 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 you know, you have to do this here. They don't do that, in my opinion. In my opinion, they have their art, their creativity, and they broke the mold. And that is why, like, when you see books that completely are repetitive and match the book ahead of it before it's because, they wrote it just like that book, just like, anyone who writes a book just like Adrienne Young now, are you seeing them fly off the shelves? No, because they're all the same. Okay. So my personal experience in writing is I've had a very, I think I'm just the wild child in writing because I've never had anyone like me.
Okay.
I was the rebel in my writing career until recently. Don't get me wrong. People love my work now. Okay. I'm not just toting myself as that I know what I'm doing or that I'm a horrible writer. No wonder you don't want to follow the rules. You suck. No, people love me now. Okay.
And she's so modest too, folks. Can't you tell?
I've sold 19 children's books in China. Okay.
Nice.
Chinese people like me.
Chinese children like you, technically. But what do children? No, I'm kidding.
So I did end up taking some writing classes in college. I took one that was a dramatic lit class that our final was, we were required to write a 10-minute play. I wrote it. I asked my teacher, because at the same time, my school was putting on a 10-minute play festival where you could submit your play and it would get produced. So I approached my teacher and I said, hey, what do you think about me submitting it? He told me I was stupid and that it was crap, and I feel like he would have given me an F if he technically could have because he didn't like it, but there was nothing technically wrong with it, I guess. So still got a decent grade. I feel like
that is the hallmark of a bad educator. I'm just throwing that out there.
Well, I submitted my play anyway, and it was selected and it was produced. Okay, so here's one instance because I didn't fit his mold. He said no, it wasn't good enough. My other example is I took a creative writing class in in college again. And I did not write like the literary fiction people in the group. I wrote more mainstream fiction. And I had to sit there quietly and listen to every single other student in class tell me how my writing sucked and didn't fit a specific mold. Even the teacher said so. And were telling me things that I have personally seen with my own eyes could never happen, and why should I put them in a book? So there again is people trying to pigeonhole creativity and art into what they think should be a book.
I feel like you've met with some very close-minded people and bad educators.
Yeah. But this is what I see as like the trend in the writing community. This is what I'm seeing happen with anyone I've met who's done the Adria Young Writers Workshop, is that, oh, I had to take it. Like, did you take it? Like, look at me. Like, now that I followed her exact spelling out of how to write a book, I'm getting attention. I mean, the industry itself of selling books is doing the same problem, because they only want dragon books, or they only want, we're pigeonholing, It's the same as script writing industry. They want a specific cut tooth block, ABC to create a book to sell. And if you don't match that, then we're not going to give you money. I mean, you see it in the theaters now. Yeah. How is any movie unique?
I mean, I'm definitely coming across that problem as I'm writing my Ghost Children book, because I want it to be this blend of like literary fiction and commercial fiction. And I am getting conflicting opinions from a lot of different people. And I just want to write what I fucking want to write. And it's not fitting into the mold of, a certain type of genre. I want to blend genres. And although I know more agents and publishers are saying that they want to have genre blending books now, it's still not quite the norm. They still want you to be doing something very easily identifiable, very saleable, which means commission for them, sales for publisher. So if you are writing outside the prescribed boxes, it is going to be harder for you. And that's unfortunate. It's something I'm really struggling with, to stay true to my own voice, but still write a marketable story.
Exactly. And it's not the audiences that are asking for this to change. Because again, look at the list of books. Addie LaRue. I think it breaks a bunch of molds of traditional writing. And look how it skyrocketed. Yeah. Look at the books that take off. It's the ones that broke out of the traditional square that are taking off. I mean, and then that becomes a square, because they're like, oh, that's sold.
I think The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Penner, I think I've brought her up before. That's another example that no one really saw coming. It's historical fiction. It's a mix of genres. It's historical fiction. It is magical realism. It is women's fiction. And I think there's something else, and a little bit of suspense and mystery. And it's all these rolled into one. And it's just beautifully written. It's beautiful, beautiful writing. And the story is compelling. The characters are great. It causes a lot of debate between people, because is the main character good? Is she bad? But it stirs things up. And then if you look also at Where the Crawdads Sing, that is a very out there book. If I had to put it into one genre, I couldn't. It inhabits so many different genres. And that's what I love about it. It's just so wildly different.
Exactly. And even the structure of the plot or the reveals, all of this is done entirely differently. Like, I actually listened to an author's interview about how he wanted his plot to be in more of a spiral, because he wanted to represent the path of a bird flight. Like,
oh, interesting.
Exactly. And
artsy.
If we're having people fit in a pigeonhole because they're too scared and desperate to try to be different, to create what they want, not only are we creating the same repetitive information and books out in the world, but we're also just taking the art out of writing. And
you might as well just leave it all to AI in that point.
Exactly. And we're creating robotic writing. And I hate comping my book, not because I never find books to comp to mine, because I do feel like it's different. And that's like, okay, like, I don't want to say it sounds like this, because it's just not, that's not the point of why I'm writing my book to begin with. And so the first real big topic that I do want to cover is like MFAs in general. If you've ever thought about getting an MFA, this is your chance to hear why you shouldn't do it.
Oh, okay. All right.
So when I was first writing, I had seriously considered getting an MFA, because at the time, I think they've gone out of fashion a little bit, but at the time it felt like it was going to be the only way to get published, because that is where everyone was coming out of. If you look at the back of jackets at like the mid-teens, what are we calling them? 20 teens? 14.
10 years ago.
Yeah.
10 years ago.
10 years. 10 years ago.
A decade ago.
About a decade ago, it felt that every author's back flap bio featured they graduated with an MFA. But the only thing that I ever heard that was a positive of MFA is connections. And again, MFA, getting an MFA and getting your book critiqued and getting it reviewed by people there is, creating their take on what a book should sound like. Now look at authors. No one has an MFA. And the books, in my opinion, have gotten a little bit more unique. Especially in because when you're more of a contemporary commercial fiction writer, they don't cover those in MFAs either. To me, I feel like Brandon Sanderson has been the only one to teaches commercial fiction. It's all every class I took was very highbrow literary, creative writing classes. We're going to read this book and piece apart this. And it was actually stumbling upon something called DIY MFA that completely changed my opinion of classes in general. I think this is where my start of being a rebel really happened too, because listening to DIY MFA, because she saw people wanting to be able to educate themselves and be able to learn how to become a good writer without having to spend tens of thousands of dollars attending a master's class on writing. And so the 3 things she said that make up an MFA are connections, ask and share, and critique work. And she said, okay, so you want curriculum, go out in the world and find every writing book that you can and make your own curriculum. Read the books yourselves. Analyze the books yourselves. Piece together information yourself to learn how to become a really good writer. Then she said, get your ass in the chair. And then she says, find your community. Yeah, it's a little harder when you don't have connections in a college, but find a community, and get your work critiqued. Don't hoard it away like a dragon.
Like a dragon. I love that. That's adorable.
See, there's bookworms and there's book dragons.
Book dragons.
So book dragons are people that hoard new books but don't always read them. I'm a dragon.
Okay. Okay.
Bookworms gobble everything up, but book dragons tend to hoard books, and that's me.
Got it.
And I think that's what started the whole point of why I've always been turned off from classes too, is I said, okay, well, I don't have the money to go to school. And I haven't had the best background learning how to write, so I went and I've read some of the best books that have completely shaped me into the writer I am today. And I was able to, because I had my own will of mine, piece together information from all these books and turn them into my version of who I've become. And I think that's one of the things that keeps the art in writing is when you get to your own ending yourself. So that's my MFA talk.
That's your MFA too? Okay. I have not taken an MFA. I don't know very much about MFAs. I didn't take any creative writing in college. I quite honestly was too scared and also didn't want to be, in high school I was the girl who was always scribbling something and kind of, a little reclusive. And I didn't want to be that girl in college. I wanted to be a bit more social. So I didn't do any writing in college. But I do know that you do make really good connections through MFAs. But I also do know that you're not guaranteed a writing career with an MFA, especially not, at my age. I've thought about going back for an MFA, but number one, I hate school. And number two, maybe if I were in my late to mid 20s, I might have a better shot. But at 40, getting an MFA is not going to really help me. I do feel like it's for a younger crowd, more idealistic, more opportunities on the horizon. I do like some authors who do have MFAs. I put down that Christina Baker Klein, who wrote The Exiles and A Piece of the World, and I think her most popular book is Orphan Train. She has an MFA. She writes mostly historical fiction, and I think she's an amazing writer. And a more commercial version would actually be the woman who led my writing workshop, Katie Barash. She wrote a novel, Obsession, which is more commercial. It's a little more suspense. It's a little out there. It's not what I would call literary fiction. But she also recommended somebody who was in her MFA program and who wrote a novel and was published, and I hated that book. I thought it was awful. It was a DNF. It's called Luster by Raven Leilani, and apparently Raven is a lovely person, but I could not stand her book. I could not get through more than 50 pages of it. So I feel like a lot of FMAs do churn out more literary styles of writing. So it just kind of depends on what you're looking for. Overall, I think, so I had a very different background with writing classes. In high school, it was just AP and honors English, but I had like the best teachers. I had the best examples. They were motivational, they were really helpful, and they taught me everything I know. They taught me how to analyze literature and find the techniques and apply those techniques to the way I write today. And I would not be the writer I am today if it were not for them. So I got very, very lucky with those teachers. However, I do write in a very different style than you do, Kate. I am more of a traditional writer. I am more of a passive voice and lyrical writer that people don't always like. I like passive voice, which I know is a problem, and learning to write more commercially has been difficult for me. So that's one of the reasons I actually took a writing workshop, is because I wanted to learn how to write more commercially, because I just wasn't hitting it on my own. So I do think classes have their place to help people out. But I've had good experiences.
Adding a little joke in there, the reason I write so actively is because it feels like I got a ruler on my hand every writing class I took about my passive writing. So I guess you could think all my writing classes for writing active. It's like it's like PTSD now. Like I'm just like, oh, can't write that. Yeah. Oh my god, that's passive.
See, I had passive voice just just blown through, like, oh, that's beautiful writing, because I was brought up on Austen and Bronte and Hawthorne and Warton, and those were all the greats that I studied, and I loved reading that, and I loved writing that style. So for me to get out of writing in the 19th century, it had to be it was a lot of work for me. Even my first novel is very old fashioned feeling, and I know in Ghost Children that some of my writing is a little old fashioned. That's just how I like to write, but that is not what is wanted right now, which is really unfortunate. I hope one day it will come in vogue again, because I will be there, but right now it's not what I should be writing. And if I could take a class that might help me break out of that mold that I'm so accustomed to being in, it's kind of intriguing to me, actually.
You are taking the Kait class, because now it is my turn to ruler over your hand. No. Don't worry, you got this. But I think from your own experience, too, as describing yourself as a writer, is you've had little, experiences here and there. You took the workshop, you work with me now, you've read books, you've done all this stuff, and you've essentially, squirreled away all that information and created your own class, just like the DIY MFA, and you've become the writer that you are today.
Yeah, but I also have a lot of ambition, and not everybody has that. And I think that classes are good for people who need more of a group motivation, who aren't self-starters, who need that support.
But you're talking workshop now. I'm not everyone can get into a writing group and be motivated and have deadlines to turn in stuff.
No, I'm talking about a class too, like a formalized class structure.
I'm talking about are classes helpful? Are they stifling art? Are they pigeonholing it? Are they feeding off people's desperation?
I think as long as people remember that they're guidelines and not the Bible, they're helpful.
Okay. Well, let's talk about the thing.
But you do not like that answer.
Well, it's just a good transition to talking about something that we both have experience with.
Okay.
Which I think will show our listeners that, I'm right. We're going to talk about Save the Cat. The thing that's on everyone's bookshelf, the thing that's touted as the number one thing to get your novel sold, the only way to write a book. I know it totes itself as this. If you have not looked it up, go Google Save the Cat. It covers essentially the structure of how to write a novel, from 3-act plots to, I think it covers some character development, correct? I haven't read it in a while.
I don't remember.
See, this is what happened. We took that book, we read the information, and we threw it out the window. But there was definitely a time in the writing community where everyone was throwing that in people's faces and saying that the only way you're going to write your book and sell it is if you follow this book. This is how you have to write a book. This is the only way to write a book. Okay? What happened, CJ, when even though I warned you not to pick it up, what happened when you read Save the Cat?
It made me feel like I had to follow a formula, and then if I wasn't following that formula, I was completely failing.
And could you follow that formula, or was your book already amazing? Plotting-wise.
It was not amazing already.
Plotting-wise.
It was not at all amazing.
Plotting-wise, though. The structure, from start to finish. It was.
The structure was pretty good, but it was also my third novel. So I think Save the Cat can be helpful because it gives you examples of books and genres that you want to write in. Like what defines a mystery? What defines a rom-com? If you've never written before and you're like, oh, I do want to try, I'm a creative person, I have story ideas, I do need to learn about the structure of stories. I think it is helpful for that, but it's just very easy to get caught up in that formula and to lose your own voice. And I also don't like how the author was like, follow this recipe and anybody can write a novel. It's super easy. That's kind of insulting because it takes a lot more than just a formula, in my opinion, to create a great story and a compelling tale.
Yes, because following Save the Cat takes out the me of the story. It makes people not put the me in. But does the story exactly have to follow the 100% the 3-act structure? No.
No.
But people are taking this book and reading it like the Bible. And that is a problem.
Yeah.
And because to me, personally, what I feel that a book needs is that it needs showing, not telling.
Mm-hmm.
Proper sentence writing. I think we can all agree to that there is grammar. There is a technique to actually writing a sentence. And that I think
people should take a grammar class.
Yes.
Let's talk about that for a second. Proper grammar.
Grammar is the one exception to the rule here. Okay?
Please learn the difference between there and there. And why, what is it? Commas are the difference between helping your uncle jack off a horse and helping your uncle jack off a horse.
Yes, exactly. So grammar is the exception to the rule of technique. I do not count that as writing technique. That's just... That's a whole other thing.
Yes.
All stories, characters have to have a want. I mean, I dare anyone to leave a comment on here where they cannot see that the want of a character is what drives a story. Name a story where that doesn't happen. Okay? I dare everyone, because I bet I can refute it all and point to you that actually the character wants this and that's what's moving the story forward.
Nothing but blackened teeth.
She wants to be with her friends and to see if she can have a relationship with them and not be kicked out of the book, which is why she came and started all of this. Ha! And then the other friends wanted to get married in a spooky place because they're unhappy with their life.
But is that a good want?
I didn't say whether it was good or not. I just said I can prove there's a want in every book.
It was good enough to get published, so what the fuck do I know?
And a character arc, because I think that's important to see an arc of something. I mean, we don't want to just read... We're not here to read a story about a horse that keeps walking in a straight line. We want to hear about that horse's joyful adventure from learning how to walk to learning how to trot to jumping a fence, okay? That's just part of entertainment, okay? But outside of that, as long as the reader's entertained, there's no structure that you have to follow. You can do whatever you want. I mean, look at V. Schwab's Life of Addie LaRue. It's such a slow start. I would say, you wouldn't even count the second act starting until 2/3 of the way through the book. You know?
I think if she had been a debut author with that book, I unfortunately don't think she would have gotten published. Because it's not commercial enough. It's not hooky enough. It's not instantaneous gratification enough, which annoys the fuck out of me.
Yeah, you say that, yet she became one of the biggest selling authors last year.
Well, but I think she already had a bit of a following.
Yeah, but you know how many people who never heard of her and picked her up because of Addie LaRue?
Yeah, but I don't think she would have actually gotten published. I'm saying,
but that's what I'm saying.
The publishing gatekeepers.
Yeah, but I'm saying the gatekeepers are wrong.
Yeah.
Because look at who she grabbed and people who never even heard of her before.
But it doesn't change the fact that they're still the gatekeepers, and if you want to get published, there are certain things that you have to do. And certain boxes you have to go into, which is very stupid. But that's why there's so many independent publishing presses, why so many people are self-publishing these days, because the general agreement is that a lot of this is stupid. We should be able to write and consume the content we want to and not be held down by these pigeonholes, as you say.
But this is the point of the conversation today, too, is that the books that are taking off are the ones that are breaking the mold, and the publication industry needs to realize that. I'm trying to keep art in the writing.
Yes, art should definitely be kept in the writing. But I don't think that taking a course or a master course or a writing education of any kind, a formal writing education of any kind, necessarily automatically detracts from your ability to write a book that is authentically you.
I think I can agree to that now. I think the topic and idea of my anger was not so much for the writing class versus we're going to get to our next topic, which is desperation. I think this is really the main thing that I wanted to cover in this whole book, this whole talk. I just was kind of like trying to like fluff it a little so we had a full 30 minutes, 45 minutes.
We're at 44.
34. You had to restart the timer, ma'am.
Oh, that's true. I forgot about that.
But I think the real point of all of this is my experience with the desperation of writers. We have people who have spent years, you and I both, who have spent so long trying to get published that we will latch on to anyone who kind of can sell us a foolproof plan for writing. And that does create a pigeonhole and it becomes a problem. And it takes away a writer's individuality in their work. And when I went to Adrienne Young's latest book signing that I was able to go to, the people that I saw and the way that they idolized her and had said like, oh, look at me, I got published because I went to her class, and oh, look at me, like, you know, I am going to mortgage my house to pay thousands of dollars to attend this writing retreat because this will support, her writing retreats are astronomically expensive, to be able to, you know, get an in just to be able to get published. And what you're trying to say, which I feel like I can agree to, is take the classes, but don't believe that the word is God. Don't take away the little itsy bitsies. I mean, that's kind of essentially what I have done with everything. I mean, I've watched Brandon Sanderson's lections. I've done master classes. I've attended, you know, adult educational writing courses. I went to college writing classes. I've read all these books. Like, I've essentially become the writer I've become because I've piecemealed a bunch of shit. And I've accepted what I think fits and works. I've also read a shit ton, and I think that you as well as CJ can agree that the number one piece of writing advice that we can give, that no matter what you do, is the only way you're going to get published is if you read a lot.
Yeah.
That will be
and constantly,
you're guaranteed to get published, is read a lot.
And just constantly be perfecting your craft. Just keep working on it. Take the classes, take what you can from it. Whatever doesn't really drive with you, just throw it out, but keep moving forward. Keep learning, keep trying, keep reading.
But don't think that, okay, now that this new writing conservatory is open, that is the only way that you have to write like that to get published. You need to become your own writer, because not only do you need to be able to write well, but you have to be able to stand behind your art. And if I went and followed any one specific formula, I wouldn't be able to stand behind my art and what I know is what I do.
I feel like I watch a lot of baking competitions, and I feel like it's very similar to if you're a home baker and you said, I want to do this professionally. I want to be a professional pastry chef. So you take like a cordon bleu class, or you do some kind of big fancy, you know, culinary education. You know, they're teaching you how to make pâte à choux a certain way. Everybody learns how to make it the same way. And everybody can learn how to make a profiterole or a cream puff. But it's the bakers who add their own little flair to everything that really get noticed, that become stars, that make it to the competitions, that people go drive for miles to eat their pastries. Because they're not just doing what's textbook, they're doing that and then adding to it with their own personal je ne sais quoi, you know? There's a lot of French terms I threw into that paragraph.
Wow, I know.
There.
Look at you.
Totally off the cuff, too. I'm getting ready for my trip to Paris.
Yeah, or, you know, is she about to drop writing and become a baker, everyone? Should we be scared?
I could not handle the pressure, man. No, thank you. But I think a lot of it applies in that same way. Like, you can take these classes, get the fancy education, but it's what you're making out of it, not what it's giving you.
Just don't let your desperation take over. I know it's hard, but don't do it.
Don't be a Rosemary's Baby guy. Have you seen Rosemary's Baby or read Rosemary's Baby?
I've seen it.
Yeah, how he just like sells his wife off to like the devil so he can be a good writer. I mean, I kind of get it. A little bit of me gets it. That desperation. I would never get to that. The dumbest thing I've done is read Save the Cat.
Should I be worried about your cat right now?
It. No, absolutely not. But I get it. It's hard. It's hard watching a lot of people succeed and saying, "Oh, well, I did this one thing, and
that's
I
what
succeeded."
did it.
And that's not what did it. It helped them, probably, yeah, definitely, but it's not the one thing that got them published. There's so much more that goes into it, and that's what people have to remember.
But then what happens is then they go on their social media platform and tell them that's what got them published, and then everyone flocks to that one thing thinking that would be... It's like skincare. somebody had a really great
Okay.
facelift, and then everyone flocks to thinking that's the only thing that will work to keep you looking young.
Oh, and now they all have bad Meg Ryan lips. It's unfortunate.
Exactly. And it's just that worked for that person on their skin, on their face, on what they do in their daily life and what they live through. But it doesn't mean it's going to work for you. And don't just flock to it thinking that that's the only way to do it. And I don't know. I just get mad because I see all these writers like building up and doing all this stuff and then offering this like, oh, look at me, I got published, so let me do this. And it's just, I just see the desperation. Like, it was so sad to go to that book signing and just to see the way people were talking. And essentially, because I hadn't gone either, I was kicked out of the group and ignored by everyone.
Jeez.
Yeah, it was bad.
Well, also, I think, maybe not with Adrienne Young, since she seems to be quite the prolific writer and has had very good book deals in the past, that, you know, these authors who do well and want to run these writing workshops or retreats or whatever it is, they need income too. They need multiple revenue streams in order to make it as a creative these days. So for a lot of them, I feel like maybe they are cashing in, but on this trend, but can you really blame them? Because if you're not getting a nice advance, if you're getting only 10 grand per book as an advance and you're not earning out and getting royalties, you got to do something. So you might as well teach others how to do it too.
Fair, especially when they're gimmicking, like their advertising gimmick is to be like, this is what, you know, this is how you do it.
I mean, you got to advertise a certain way, but honestly, people should know by now, you know, social media isn't real life. Most things are not that easy. If you're like 45 and you're believing that, you know, the Instagrammer you follow only works 1 hour a week, you're fucking deluded. I'm sorry. You gotta use some of your own brain. And if you don't have that, you're never gonna become a good writer. I don't care what course you take.
Well, that's what I saw, is those people believing that the 1 hour a day is true.
Yeah, well then reality is going to be a harsh thing for them.
I'm sick and tired of seeing the same convoluted structure and story being put out because I'm bored.
I am too. I feel
different.
like I read a lot of the same story over and over and over again, and it annoys me. On that level, I should love Nothing But Black and Teeth because at least it was very, very different, and I can give her that. But you know, there are so many, especially in the rom-com genre, I feel that there are just so many. And the point is to follow a certain formula to a certain extent, but come on, people, come on. So it's gotta widen it up.
If anyone has been following along this ramble, and I'm sorry it was a ramble, I think that hopefully you took away some nuggets. And
I think hopefully that if you've been listening to us for a long time, you know that the technical ones are mainly rambles.
Exactly. But I think that hopefully you take away that it's okay to take the class, it's okay to do this, but they're not gods. It worked for them, doesn't mean it's going to work for you. What it does mean is you need to take a lot of different classes. You need to read a lot of different books. You need to do a lot of your own research. You need to get your ass in the chair and write. You need to read a lot of books. And you need to make your own jigsaw puzzle from all of that and your own picture of how you write. And that you shouldn't just listen to one person. And you should not, do not spend the money on these classes if you do not have it and think that is the only way you're going to get published. There are tons of free books at the library.
That is extremely important.
If you want to write, the number one advice is go read a shit ton of books. Go check out some writing technique books from the library. Go watch Brandon Sanderson's.
Go to YouTube. Yes. There are a billion videos on YouTube. Alexa Dunn and iWriterly videos taught me how to show and not tell. Wonderfully. Go to YouTube and get stuff for free.
Jenna, whatever, did the Savior's Champion. She's amazing. Brandon Sanderson has posted all of his BYU lecture classes that he filmed the classes and he posted those on YouTube. Mm-hmm. Like, there's so much that you can do. You do not need to spend the money. This is not how you're going to just get published. If you have the money, cool. Support your author by buying their classes. But you can do this. Go finding critique partners is free. Like, you can still be a writer.
Don't go into the poorhouse because you're not going to make enough money as a published writer to make it back and get out of the poorhouse.
You can still be an amazing author and artist. You just ass in chair and read books.
Ass in chair. Butt in seat. Agreed.
All right, friends. Well, I just want to remind you that you have one more week to join in on this month's book club, which is Schrader's Chord by Scott Leeds. And sorry we did not do this earlier in our 2 previous episodes, but we are going to now give a trigger warning for this book. I just want to tell you that there is some animal harm in the book with some horses at the end.
And a dog.
Well, the dog wasn't like...
I found that sad. That was hard for me too.
It didn't happen
it was sad.
in your face. You just saw the aftermath.
It's like 3 lines, but
yes,
it's there.
The horse thing is about a page and a half. It does not like give into the story too much, so feel free to skip on. What'd you say? It was like chapter 37? 35, 30. It's 35 or 37. Don't worry, just skip ahead like the page and a half.
You'll see it coming. Yeah. You'll see it coming. You'll know when to go ahead.
You don't need to like read those 2 sentences. Two pages, just skip ahead. We wanted to warn you because even though I know we're all part of a horror book club, animal harm does not count, and it should die. No. Kill every
all
human.
The humans you want in the book, but do not touch a fucking hair on a fucking dog. You know?
And if you haven't gotten your book yet, don't forget you can support us on bookshop.org with our affiliate links below. It gives us a small percentage without any extra cost to you. But thank you for listening to The Dark Side of the Word, a podcast for all the dark story lovers. If you're listening to us on YouTube, then please subscribe and give this video a thumbs up. We're also a podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and iHeart. Make sure to follow us and check out our weekly polls and questions if you're listening on Spotify. We'd also love a review. Leaving a review on our page is equivalent to tipping your waiter. Thank you so much, friends. Bye.
Bye.